Today we're going to factor by grouping. This is a process that uses greatest common factors but has some additional steps that we need to follow. So here are our steps here. We're going to start by making two groups using parentheses, and then factor from the first group, and then factor from the second group, and then check to see if whatever we have left over matches. If it does, we can continue on. If it doesn't, we have to go back and check. Then check your answer by multiplying. So these 5 steps are off to the right here for this first problem, so we can kind of follow along as we go. So the first step says to make two groups. Okay, so there are my two groups. We are actually going to ignore the second group right now, so I'm going to put a box over it. Don't have to worry about that. And we are going to factor the GCF out of the first group. So if I look at my first group, I have a 15 and a 10. I know that I can divide both of those by 5. They also both have x's. So remember from yesterday that we're going to take the smallest exponent out of the ones that are in common. So I'm going to take out 5x squared. To figure out what's left in the parentheses, we are going to divide. So I'm going to do 15 divided by 5, which is 3. And if I had 3 x's but I took 2 out, I have 1 x left in that term. For the second term, negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2. I have 2 x's there, and I took 2 x's out, so I actually don't have any x's left at all. Okay, so there's my first group. So that's step 2. Now, for step 3, we're going to ignore everything that we did off to the side here. So I'm going to cover this first group up, ignore this that we've already have done, and we are going to go ahead and find a GCF for the second group. So what can I divide both 21 and 14 by? Well, I can divide them both by 7. So I'm going to put a positive 7 there because that's what I'm dividing by. And I don't have variables in both of those. So this has an x, but this one doesn't. So that's why I'm not putting an x with my 7. So to figure out what's left in my parentheses, we're going to divide. 21 divided by 7 is 3. I had an x, but I didn't do anything with those x's, so that's going to stay there. Negative 14 divided by 7 is negative 2. And again, we didn't do anything with the variables, so we're going to go ahead and leave that like it is. Okay, so here is step 2. Here is step 3. Step 4 says to make sure that your two groups match. So we want to make sure that this matches that. If it does, we can continue on. If it doesn't, we need to go back. So since those two match, I'm going to bring that out front. Okay? They have that in common. When I do that, this and this technically have been factored out. They kind of disappear. So my second group is going to come from this term here and this term here. Okay, so I've factored into two groups. So my final answer here should be 3x minus 2 times 5x squared plus 7. I'm actually going to move that down a little bit. Okay, so this should be my final answer here. I can always check this by going back and multiplying. So I'm just going to do this off to the side here. If I FOIL this out, 3x times 5x squared is 15x squared. Sorry, x to the third. 3x times 7 is 21x. Negative 2x times 5x squared is negative 10x squared. And negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. Now this isn't in the exact same order as what I started with, but if I rearranged it to put it in standard form, it does actually match what I started with. So if I get rid of this, notice I had 15x to the third minus 10x squared plus 21x minus 14. Okay, so I'd say we're in pretty good shape here. This, either this group or this group, gives us our final answer in factored form. So let's go ahead and do two more together. I'm going to do these a little bit faster. Okay, so this one here is a little different because there's a minus sign in the middle, so we have to be careful with these signs. That negative does have to stay with that 35, so I just squeeze a plus sign in the middle if it makes it easier. So first group, what goes into 25 and 5? I can divide them both by 5. And if I have a p to the third and a p squared, my smaller exponent is that 2. So we're going to decide what's left in our parentheses. So 25 divided by 5 is 5. I have 3 p's and I took 2 out, so I have 1 left. Negative 5 divided by 5 is negative 1. I had 2 p's and I took 2 p's out, so I don't have any left. For the second group, I know that I can divide 35 and 7 both by 7. Since this is a negative, I'm going to divide by a negative 7 to change my signs. So negative 35 divided by negative 7 is positive 5, and 7 divided by negative 7 is negative 1. So the only reason I have a negative 7 there is because of this negative sign right here. So step 1, make two groups. Step 2, factor the first group. Step 3, factor the second group. Step 4 is check to make sure that those match. If they do, we're going to bring that out in one group. Okay, so I'm factoring that out. That's gone. And this and that, 5p squared minus 7, make my second group. That's the final answer. Okay, you can check that by foiling or using your box. I'm going to go ahead and leave that up to you and do one more problem. So the last one here, first step, make two groups. Okay, in the first group I can divide 20 and 15 by 5, and they both have ends. The smallest exponent is squared. So 20 divided by 5 is 4. If I had 3 ends and I took 2 out, I have 1 end left. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Had 2 ends, took 2 out. That one's done. The next group, I have 12 and 9, so I know I can divide both of those by 3. The second one doesn't have an end, so I'm not going to have any variables. So 12 divided by 3 is 4, and then we have an end there. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So now we're going to make sure that this matches. 4n plus 3 and 4n plus 3. If it does, we can bring that out front. That takes care of our group. These two make my second group. Okay, so that is how you factor by grouping. You can always check by foiling or using your box to make sure it works. There are 4 guided practice problems that I'd like you to try. In the second set, make sure you are careful with those negative signs there. When you finish, let us know. We'll check it and give you your homework if you're on the right track and help you out if you have questions. And if you have any other questions, make sure you raise your hand and we'll come help you. So today we did factor by grouping. Tomorrow we're going to do some more practice with 7.4 and 7.7. So GCFs and factor by grouping. And then we are going to actually not take a quiz tomorrow. We're going to do the quiz on Thursday instead. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, make sure you raise your hand, ask for help. If not, keep working and have a great day.